Hello and welcome to the interview. I'm speaking with Shanthi Sachithanandan, the chairperson of Viluthu, an organization which is doing a lot of work, I believe, on women's issues, governance in Sri Lanka. Shanthi, warm welcome to the program. You're not a person who's averse to television and the televisual media. You have been fairly vocal in your statements during the war, in expressing your concern at the time for the civilians who were displaced on account of it, and even after its official end, you have appeared and written about how we should be taking care more of those displaced, and certainly for a future of Sri Lanka very different to what is articulated in national level politics. So a place as good as anywhere else to start and begin with is when the war was on, Shanthi. A lot of what you said suggested many things, but it didn't suggest that you believed that an end to war would have come about as soon as it did earlier this year. Looking back now at what you said, would you, I mean, in terms of looking back and reflecting upon some of those things you said, did it really come as a surprise?
It was, the writing on the wall was fairly clear by November, December of 2008. Yep. And then we knew now it was downhill, and there had to be some kind of a miracle happening, at least in the international arena, for something to happen. But, well, you know, everything has a cause and effect, and we can talk about it, why it happened the way it did, but it happened. But I would say that it was a surprise to us, nevertheless. Even if we saw it, that was a surprise. And
just to clarify, to us and going downhill, who is us and what is going downhill?
People.
The Tamil people, yeah.
And downhill is the loss of a leadership that can negotiate with the state here. So that's the loss.
And would you feel that that has a lot of traction in the southern vote base or the southern consciousness, that leadership that you have always spoken about quite openly in the LTTE, and its loss earlier this year? The southern constituents might think very differently.
Okay, well, just to take an example, round about early this year, when it was clear that LTTE was going to meet its demise, a lot of Muslim groups met, amongst themselves, and also with some of the Tamil civil society groups. And what they were really articulating was very interesting. They said, until LTTE was there to negotiate, there was this thing of the Muslim rights on the table. It was on the cards. And they were able to demand the Southeast unit of self-rule, and also to have the non-contiguous territories where they can have some kind of a Pondicherry-like settlement for the Muslim political question. But now, when the LTTE was gone, they said there was no one for them to actually raise these demands. So the fact is that there was a struggle, and that struggle really facilitated some of these demands of the minority nations and communities to put forward. Now that space is gone. So that is what I'm saying of the response that we had to this event. Can
new spaces be created? Not necessarily to fill the void, but to create a new?
Well, that's a big question that, I have to be honest with you, I can't really spell it out and say yes or no. But then we have to, we must. And we start from that. Because we must, we are going to create that. And I think if we approach it in a positive manner, we can. And that also starts with what you mentioned earlier, the kind of dialogue that we have with the Sinhalese in this country. And to tell them very clearly that, okay, apart from all the terrorism and all that kind of a rhetoric that really couched the real issue, let's take that out, that outer covering, and then really look at the issue. There is a problem.
We would be led to believe, and we meaning, say, the people who consume the media, in the South that there is peace and that the absence of war is peace. Nevertheless, we also get to hear about a deep distrust, nevertheless, that the Tamil community has about their future, the political future in this country, their future as equal citizens, and the underlying causes, the underlying grievances, the political marginalization of this community, and also the marginalization of minority communities in general. Now, you say that we must create. My question to you again would be, given that these problems and challenges still persist, and given the significant loss of leadership, as you put it, how can you go about doing that?
I would say, we have come down a path of what we call a patriarchal politics. That talks of dominance, winning, competition. We taught them a bloody good lesson kind of attitude. And I think, I have faith that if we show an alternative way of, embarking upon political interactions, people can look out for something that's different. There is a hope. So I think it starts with that. The interactions have to be politically different.
And not necessarily partisan, is that what you're suggesting?
Not well, that's a very difficult question, The thing is, everybody has some side. We have a position. And then, unfortunately or fortunately, we start out with that. That's not the issue. But then how do we engage with the other? I think that's where we have to be different. The way of engagement, the mode of engagement, and the consistency with which we apply that. Not do once and then say, right, no point. So that there is a space for that, at least in the politics of the Northeast, if not in the South.
And I mean, you've spoken before, and you're fairly passionate about identity as a woman, amongst many other things. And is that an identity you want to say use in the future to bring about that more progressive conversation?
It's not what I want. I think it's what is needed now. Yeah. Because I use this word patriarchy, not just just because I was a feminist, but because that's what it signifies. That's the symbol of authority. And we are unfortunately going for authority. We want power. We want a macho leader. Everything that is right opposite to reconciliation, cooperation, love, everything that is opposite to that.
But Shanthi, help me understand, in terms of the leadership that is no more in the LTTE, was it all of what you want to see now?
That's a very difficult question to answer. We are caught in two different tracks. One is that we have to respond to a current status quo.
Post-war.
Or post-war, or even during the war.
Yeah, okay.
Even during the war, even during the conflict. And then we have to evolve strategies in order to counter that. That's one. Then there is also something that we have within us, the ideal situation. A real democracy where people really participate. So how do you really balance that? So I wouldn't say something is totally, something doesn't have any value, because as a short-term strategy, it may have some value. But then that doesn't mean that we all of us get together and put the foundations for a longer term, a sane political future for all of us.
I was privileged and honored to know Mano very briefly, and in the volume that commemorated the first year, I think, after he passed away.
My husband.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there was a wonderful write-up about how he entered into your life and how both of you grew into Tamil identity, the politics of it all. Is there anything that you take from that chapter in your life, as it were, that has formed you and what you are today and what you would like to see moving on into the future?
Well, I think I am what I am because of that chapter.
Yeah.
For the quarter century that I spent, my married life, we learnt about people because we worked at the grassroots, and that's a very, very valuable, it's an invaluable experience. That's something.
Did you know